Holly Rowe from the Mothership, covering the women's tournament, and then she'll head to the Final Four in Indianapolis. Also, sideline reporter with college football, college basketball. Just told the story that are you at halftime with your battle with cancer? Where you said you're midway point?
That's good. I'm in a good halftime point. Yes,
okay.
I've had surgery. I'm recovering from surgery, and I'll start treatments that are chemo-ish. It's actually this drug that just cured Jimmy Carter that is a clinical trial that I'm doing. So I'm very hopeful. Everything's great. It's just going to be awesome.
Did you talk to Craig Sager? I
have not talked to him. It's very awkward. You know, some people want to share, some people don't, and I don't know him that well.
Yeah.
But Gino Auriemma in our game the other night, he had this kind of flashy for him, plaid, really busy jacket on.
A Craig Sager-ish?
And I said, what's up with the jacket? And he said, I'm wearing this tonight for Craig Sager. Because cool. Craig covered their Olympic teams, and he was great with the women and treated them just like all the NBA players. And so Gino gave him a little jacket shout out. It was great.
You mentioned a couple of Bob Knight stories. Kevin Harlan's comments after Syracuse won back from the dead on Easter Sunday. And what was the other topic that we were diving into?
The UConn women.
Dan Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me do Kevin Harlan first, those comments. Now, you've done play-by-play. Let's play the clip, and then... And I don't want to put you in an unfair position. Like, this is my job to talk about this.
Right.
Okay? Are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
All right, see it and play it.
Jim Boeheim and Syracuse have done it. Back from the dead on Easter Sunday. They're going to the Final Four.
I don't know Kevin Harlan.
He is a very nice man. Actually, when I was starting out in this business, I staged managed for him, and he treated me great. I'm some nobody at the table helping him, and he was great with me. So he is a nice man. As a play-by-play person, I think a lot of people script big moments.
Yeah.
So, you don't write it out exactly, but you have an idea of how you want to call this moment because it will live forever. Think about Al Michaels, the Miracle on Ice, all these calls that live forever. Yeah. And so you do have an idea going in. I would be fascinated to know if he scripted that. I think it's worse if he did script it because that means he did put some thought into it and he thought that was a good idea. If it was natural and it's off the top, that's understandable. We all say stupid stuff. I have things I'm like, oh, did that just come out of my mouth? So I hate judging other people because I've done stupid stuff for sure. But that was awkward. It's awkward.
Well, as I said, if I gave him a do-over, would he do it differently? That's probably your answer. If he said yes, I would do it. Or if he said no, you know what?
It's not worth it. It's not worth taking away from the moment because now we're talking about his call instead of the moment. And as a broadcaster, I bet he would hate that because you want it to be about the moment.
Dan Shaughnessy, Boston Globe, had a tweet. I figured that you might have a comment or two. UConn women beat Mississippi State 98-38 NCAA tournament. Hate to punish them for being great, but they are killing women's game. Watch, ? No thanks. Got a comment?
I think that one, mission accomplished. He probably was trying to draw attention to himself, and he has. Yeah. So that's unfortunate that we're talking about him instead of Breanna Stewart or Morgan Tuck or Mariah Jefferson or these women who've been busting their butt for 70 straight wins. Kids this age, you try to get any kid to do anything 70 straight times, come on. So I'm angry that he wants to take this moment away from those kids who've worked so hard. That's offensive.
But is dominance boring?
No. Absolutely not. I thought Gino's comment was perfect. We never thought Tiger's dominance was boring. Jody Conrad, the Texas coach that has retired, told me yesterday, it's kind of like that 4-minute mile. No one in America thought that no one in the world thought you could break the 4-minute mile until someone did it, and then everybody could. So people don't think you can beat UConn, but somebody can and will, and then it will start to change. Texas lost to UConn last year in the Sweet 16 by 51 points. Texas is a better team today because of that loss. They won 31 games this season. It fueled their entire offseason workout. Their strength and conditioning coach would be yelling, 51 points, 51 points. People are better because they're chasing UConn. It's great for the women's game because they have set a standard that people are trying to get to.
But is there an anti-women's sports sentiment here?
If this was a men's team doing this, there's no way he makes that comment. Nobody says the Warriors are bad for basketball. No, nobody said the Bulls during their great run were bad for basketball, right? So I do think it is a sexist comment.
And I'm all for the dominance. I love that I know who's the team to beat, the person to beat, the golfer to beat, the tennis player to beat. UCLA basketball back in the 70s, they were the team to beat, the Boston Celtics. I love that because you measured yourself with them. And I think these golfers, it wasn't that Tiger was bad for golf. The other golfers were bad for golf, in my opinion.
Get better.
Yes.
Get better. And that's what everyone in history, you get better. You try to be good.
Okay, who gives UConn a game?
UConn gives them a game. The only way that I think UConn can get beat is if they don't play their best. And, that happens. The injuries, their point guard went down in a heap in our last game. And I was like, ugh, that's something we never consider, our injuries. Officiating. Breanna Stewart gets into foul trouble. How do they overcome that? So they're not infallible by any means, but when they're playing at their best, nobody can beat them.
Does Gino Auriemma belong in that same paragraph with John Wooden?
Absolutely.
Red Auerbach, Mike Krzyzewski?
He's uncomfortable with it. I will tell you that.
Is it apples and oranges?
It's apples and oranges in his mind. He said, I'm uncomfortable being compared to the men's game. They're different games. Just like, we don't want to compare the women to the men. He's uncomfortable. However, on other days where he's feeling a little cocky, he's like, has anyone really gone back?
Every day he's feeling cocky.
He's like, has anyone really gone back and look at what John Wooden did? His road was much easier. The path that John Wooden took, they didn't travel. The NCAA tournament wasn't what it is today.
Tuesday in Los Angeles, 32 teams.
Right. So what Gino's doing on paper and maybe in reality is harder to some. So it's very interesting. But, the numbers are comparable.
Traveling with Bob Knight, that sounds like a movie.
Oh, my gosh.
A book.
It's like one of the best moments in my entire life. So
where are you going? Where do you start?
We are doing a game at Wichita State. So couple of stories. I covered him when he was at Texas Tech, and he was really hard on me at first. And he tests you and pushes your boundaries. And I guess I passed some tests. So we did an interview one time after a game that they won. And as he's walking off the court, he just slaps me on the butt. And I was like, that is the most awesome thing that's ever happened to me. Because it was like one of those, like you would slap a teammate on the butt, like, good job, kid. It was just like that. And I thought it was awesome. And I was like, man, I hope my butt felt okay on that slap, And so I've told some female colleagues about that. And they're like, you're crazy. Doris Burke, this is her. Yeah. You're crazy. I would have slapped him. But to me, it felt like I did a good job and I belonged. And so I loved it. So we've had a great relationship. So a couple of years ago, Wichita State's undefeated. They're doing their final game at home to, I think, become 31 or 32-0. Bob Knight's there and his flight gets canceled. Well, I'm driving from Wichita to Stillwater, Oklahoma, because I have a game there on Monday. So I say, hey, well, I can get you south out of this storm if you want. So he and I go on a 4-hour ride in a blizzard. And I've, like white knuckling on the wheel. And he's hungry. So we drive through the McDonald's drive-thru. We get some food. And as I drive, Bob Knight feeds me French fries. And he is lovingly, like, one at a time, putting French fries in my mouth and my straw for my drink so I don't have to take my hands off the wheel.
Oh, my God.
And for 4 hours, he and I talk about his relationship with John Wooden, things he wishes he's done different in his career. And I am just so grateful for these precious, precious moments.
Doesn't that sound like the name of the book? Bob Knight is feeding me French fries.
It could be the title of my autobiography.
Yes.
I think
you start there. Now you got me.
But everything else might be downhill from there. I did have one other good car ride with Pat Summitt. I was doing a football game in Tennessee a couple of years ago, and Tamika Catchings was playing in the WNBA championship game that night. And Pat said, hey, do you mind if I jump in the car and ride with you? So she and I did a 4-hour road trip together. And I was playing some songs to stay awake because I'd been driving all night. And she's like whistling, Call Me Maybe, over on the side, like pounding on the thing. And I played a Bad Mama Jamma for Pat Summitt. She'd never heard, I'm a bad mama jamma. And I was like, okay, this, like, if you could just see us right now, I'm jamming out in the car with Pat Summitt. So the two legends of the game, I've had these epic car trips with. It's awesome.
But there are moments, though, when, like, I can't find you after a game when you're trying to get a coach or a star player, and you're not a tall person, but it gets physical in there.
No, it does. I got in trouble a couple of years ago. Something went on the internet about, me boxing out somebody for an interview. And I'm like, I can't believe it hasn't been on there before. I'm like, in there, you're boxing out. You know it. You've been down on the field in these situations, right?
Yeah, it's a mosh pit.
Photographers aren't waiting for you to do your interview. You're fighting for space. Yeah. And so No, I was like, just thank God I started my career before cell phones, because I remember doing games where I was whacking drunk kids with my microphone. And no, I've done much worse than I got caught for. But it's survival of the fittest down there. And, like you said, I'm 5'3", I'm a shorty. So I'm down there boxing people out.
I love it, though. But, at your job,
it's
you
my
have
job.
to get that interview.
And if I don't get the interview, then I'm not good at my job. I've never missed an interview because I didn't get in there. And I take pride in that. So it might not be pretty getting it, but we do it.
Holly Rowe, her and Doris Burke work in the regional final tonight in Bridgeport. Top-seeded UConn against number 2 Texas. That's at 7 Eastern on the mothership. And then you go to the Final Four in Indy next weekend with Dave O'Brien, who's doing the play-by-play. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I love your show so much.
Thank you.
You guys are like friends and neighbors in my life, and so it's really fun to be here and see you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're easy to root for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.